Let's get the lighting going. All right. Conscious love and relationships. Who's down for that convo? We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Insta. What's up, Nelly girl? Hey, Annabella. All right, let's see who's jumping on tonight. We are diving into cards. Who's got relationship questions? I'm totally not jamming out on music tonight because Instagram gets on my ass about it. Give some hearts if you can see me. Give some hearts if you can see me. Who do we got? What do we got tonight? What's up? All right. What's up, Stacy? What's up, Plenty Found? All right, loves. I'm going to shuffle. How are you guys doing? How are we feeling? There's the hearts. I love those. I love those. All right. And we're on YouTube too. Okay, cool. Stacy, has it? How long has it been, love? How long has it been? We see the brow healer. What's up, Christy? There's all the hearts. I love those. I love those. Oh, we already got a jumper out. Come on. Seriously? Do you guys want to know what the card is that just jumped out? The topic of this whole week. Wow, I'm not even... This Plenty Found, you still on here? What's up, Wildflower Ari? Hi, Queen. Yes, girl. Who wants to know? Give some hearts if you want to see what the card is that literally just jumped out right now that could not be more in alignment with the whole just theme of this week, with client sessions, with expanding so many different. Annabella, are you on here too? Yes, you guys, you sure? You want to see it? Are we sure we want to see it? I know it's backwards, but read it. I know it's backwards, but read it. What's that say? What's that say? Self-worth. Boom. That's how we're starting off tonight, is in the self-worth conversation. You have no idea how funny that is. Okay. We're going to see what keeps popping out. We're going to see what keeps popping out. Yeah. Okay. Major theme. Exactly. Annabelle, come on, girl. Yes. Wildflower. All right. Yes, you too. Who else is relating with the self-worth conversation? We had that conversation last week with Soul Circle. It's been a huge theme in all relationships. It's always a theme in relationships. We got to align and know our self-worth. That is where every wound stems from. That is where we begin shifting, when we can get to the awareness of our self-worth, or what our self-worth hasn't been, and align more deeply, putting into practice the tools that we need in order to clear and heal whatever that wound of self-worth is. I think we can apply that to everything that is happening globally. So it's a micro, it's a micro, and it's a macro conversation. And today too, what I really want to dive into, another theme, yes, hearts. Another theme that's really been coming up on, it came up on the membership, the group called membership. So shout out to that. Every Tuesday at noon, we have membership group coaching calls. So there's a link for that in my bio if you guys are interested in that. It's like laser coaching. So a big theme that came up on that is recognizing, yes, of course, what's going on collectively. And yes, hearts, cool. Recognizing what's coming up collectively. Recognizing that there's a lot of conversation around, right, different points of view, different perspectives. We got to be able to honor everybody's point of view, because at some point we can, if we look close enough, see ourselves in certain points of view. Play with that one. That being said, do you guys want to know kind of how the mind breaks down or sort of kind of absorbs information and then kind of takes information, and what we do with it, and why so many different aspects of what's going on collectively are creating this different viewpoints, right? Do you guys want to understand like a little bit more on just how the mind works with that, how we ultimately come to the different conclusions that we have? Based on, like, yes, we can all say like it's based on past experiences, and yes, that's true, but like really like what happens, like the step-by-step sort of process. Give some hearts if you guys want to kind of understand that when we're watching so much of what's happening and people having these different perspectives, many different perspectives, right? I've also been tracking, like if we all say that we really want to be able to access fifth dimensional consciousness, if you will, right? It's not a place that you go. It's not, it's a state of being. And that state of being is based on conscious awareness. And conscious awareness is the ability to see multiple different perspectives. So if we are only able to see one perspective, our own, and not be able to jump into another person's perspective, let alone other multiple perspectives, we won't be able to access that conscious awareness. And so the kind of the filters that I'm going to explain are sort of why we're not able to see those different states of awareness. That being said, I kind of want to give a perspective on what different states of awareness we can be paying attention to while we're listening to everything that's going on, because we're absorbing information and we're processing it. And there's a lot of really powerful things that are happening, and a lot of things that just we need to hold the line on being the observer and collecting information. And so with that, with the different perspectives, we got to remember we have our perspective. We have to remember that other people have their perspective. Then there's the shadow, the below perspective, right? You know how we all say as above, so below, as within, so without. That's another way of saying, okay, as within, I have my perspective. As without, somebody else has their perspective. As above, you can see from a bird's eye view, an overview, a 30,000 feet looking at the everything perspective. Then you have as below, which is the shadow. There's always a deeper shadow to every conversation, to every narrative that's happening. And so that's the below perspective. That's 4. I'm wondering if you guys know what the 5th perspective might be. Feel free to type in what the 5th perspective you think might be. And yes, type in your questions and I'll get to those too on relationships, conscious love, anything and everything that has to do with self-empowerment and self-worth. So yes, what I want to be able to share while we're waiting for some more questions to come in is that's all the different perspectives, right? So if we can be able to access 5 different perspectives, that will help us access 5th dimensional awareness, which is the whole, right? If you're down with that, if that's something that is of a desire for you. All perspectives at once. Are you a multidimensional being, or are you a 2-dimensional being, or are you a singular dimensional being? If we can only see one perspective, then that basically means that we're claiming that we are only a 1-dimensional being, because different dimensional awareness isn't a place that you go. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of awareness. It's a perspective. It's the ability to see. If we were to put it into something tangible, if you can just see this side, this is 1-dimensional awareness. You can only see this side. If you can see this side and this side, 2-dimensional awareness. I feel like this is right. Sometimes we need to just take it back to the roots, right? That's another global conversation. We got to just go back to the roots, back to basics. Okay. So this might sound like kindergarten, but I think we all need to get back to basics, just like we all need to get back to roots, get back to true history. A little bit of whitewashing happening. You guys heard me talk about that a couple weeks ago. Okay. So if you can see this side and this side, you got 2-dimensional awareness. If you can see this side, and this side, and that side. Oh, that hold on. Slow it down, Sarah. We got this side. We got this side. And we got this side, that's 3 dimensions. You can't see this side over here though, not from standing over there. So from your point of view, you can't see what's on this side, can you? You don't know what's here. I could write something right here and you can't see that. You follow me? You can see this one, you can see this one, you can see this one, but you can't see what's written right here. Unless you go to a different perspective. Maybe you come up here and you see this right here. Now you can see a little bit of what's over here if you kind of tilt your head around, but you got to go higher in order to see more perspectives. You got to go under here to see this bottom shadow perspective. So can you see all of them all at once? Let's pretend that you're Superman or Wonder Woman and you can just fly around all of them real fast. So technically, you can only see one perspective at a time. Let's play that game. But the more that we are flexible in shifting our perspectives and our awareness, the faster that we can get to doing that, the more availability, the more permission that we give ourselves, the more flexibility. Okay, let's just call it flexibility, right? You got your yoga, body flexibility. You need yoga perspective ability. You need some flexibility on your yoga perspectives. Okay, so yes, you can. Okay, cool. Great. So the name of the game is how many perspectives can you see at one time? If you're up here, you can't maybe see the shadow perspective, right? Maybe we could say that. So you're limited to how many perspectives you can see at any given one time. But if you move, if you become the conscious creator of your reality so that you can see and move and have the flexibility like a badass yogi and be able to see all different perspectives, be able to move around to see all the different perspectives, then that gives you more dimensional awareness. Give some hearts if you guys are relating to this. Give some hearts if you're tracking and following where and how I'm referring to all of this, and if this is resonating for you. Yes, the easier that it becomes, 100%. It's like a muscle, just like yoga or going to the gym. You're not a total badass when you get there the first time. Understanding inner standing and overstanding. Hey, girl, hey. Yes, thank you for blowing up the hearts on that. Okay, cool. So this is multidimensional awareness, multidimensional perspectives. The more flexibility we have with this, the more compassion we have with being able to see multiple different points of view. The more compassion, the more that we can get into understanding, which is inner standing and overstanding and all of the standings. The more we can stand strong. How about that? Okay. The more all the stands happen at once. So here's the glitch. There's a glitch in perspectives, because no matter how many different perspectives you can see, no matter how flexible you are at your yoga perspectives, you guys love me? Okay, good. No matter how flexible you are, this goes for everybody. This is how the mind works. So hopefully by bringing awareness and more perspective to this, we can have greater inner and under and over standing. We can have greater standing so that we can all stand together as one. How about that? Would we all like to stand together as one? That means we all need to have multiple standings. Give me some hearts on that. Awareness of beliefs. Yes. Absolutely awareness of beliefs. Yes. So here's the glitch. Here's the potential glitch that happens in every person's standing. We have, no matter what point of view you're coming from, we have filters. We dove into this in what's up, YouTube? Literally, we have filters, right? And so we dove into this in membership today. So if we have these filters, think of them as like files in the mind. And these filters, there's 3 primary filters. We have, what's up, babes? Okay, we have 3 primary filters. We have, let me back up. We have 3 primary filters of when we take in awareness to information. Whenever information is coming at us, given hopefully that it's truthful information and not false information, right? And even so, that we gotta track our own discernment as well. Won't get into that right now. And no matter what information is coming at us, right? There's thousands and thousands of pieces of information that we are always privy to. And so because there's so much, we can't possibly take on all of that, even with all the different perspectives. So here's what our mind does. It filters, right? We want to organize. The mind is very organizational by nature. So it wants to organize things. Give some hearts if you guys are tracking and understanding with me with this. And then, yes, I see your questions. We'll dive into those. So what happens is we filter, and we have 3 primary filters. And these 3 primary filters of any information that comes in is we will delete information. We will delete it based on what we want to fit the narrative that we have, or that we've been conditioned to have, or that we have learned behavior or learned awareness of, or learned story, or that our inner child and our ego would like to maintain, because that's what will make us feel safe. And so any challenge of that will make some people feel not safe. So we will delete information to fit the narrative that we want. Hopefully, in bringing this information, the goal is to have more compassion for how everybody is absorbing information, and where the glitch in this multiple perspective of standing, understanding, understanding, and overstanding. Direct. So it's delete, distort, and generalize. So close. Direct. I don't know what you mean by that. So, hey, Led by Heart. Hi, baby. Huge shout out to you, love. So we delete, we distort, we generalize. So whenever we're absorbing information and it comes in, we will delete it to fit the narrative of the ego. And the ego, you can't make it bad and wrong. Don't judge it, right? This goes back to what's been given, that sometimes we know and sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we understand, or sometimes we know the information from our past. Sometimes we've been given things that's generational. So that's where we hear the unlearning. Sometimes we've been learning things that we need to unlearn, patterns, beliefs, programs. But we will, the human mind, so this goes for everybody, will delete in order to fit what we currently know the narrative is, until we learn a new one. Then we'll delete, then we will distort. So we'll morph, like this isn't a square. No, I'm going to make these rounder edges. This clearly isn't a square. I remember this being a round circle. Yes, that's how I remember things being. So we'll distort it so that then we can fit it to the narrative. And then we will generalize. That's the everything. Right? That usually shows up with, all men are assholes, all women are bitches, everybody, right? The all and the everything. And this is just how the mind works. So the more that we can understand how the mind works, and we can recognize that everybody is doing the best that they can with whatever ability to see multiple different perspectives, plus the filters, then we can now, from that awareness, be able to say, okay, we need to shift the filters of deletion, distortion, and generalization. We need to unlearn some things in order to learn something new. And we need to be able to have we need to have the flexibility to have multiple different perspectives, knowing that it's going to go through the filters and bringing conscious awareness to going through those filters. So then we can rewire those filters, or just pull out the filters and create the healthy ones that we want. Because if Like knowing that we're all in this together, the state of the way that everything is because we've been doing it. And if that triggers you, go ahead and jump off because we got to get really real with taking responsibility that we're all saying that we want change. And if we're going to level up to changing, we all say it starts within. And the next level to it starts within means let's go back to the root. Let's go back to the core. Let's go back to the very, very beginning. In some aspects, we need to go back to the very beginning of history and understand that those narratives have been changing to fit a certain narrative. And right now, that's no longer serving us. So it's like, cool, it's been doing all of this. We've had some positives out of it. We've had some not so positives. We need to be able to correct or rewrite, going to the core of where the beginning of history, when it started shifting for like manipulation purposes, let's say, or a certain agenda, let's say, because then it hasn't really been true. So if we're going to take on a value of being truth seekers, we got to go to the core. That's going to the core within and finding, okay, what are those core programs that we have? What are those core perspectives that I'm deleting, distorting, or generalizing? What are those core narratives that I took on a long, long time ago? No matter what topic that is, in any relationship, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, and your relationship to business, your relationship to everything. What are those things, those narratives that you learned that now need to shift if they aren't serving? And collectively, we are uprooting some major stuff. And I'm not laughing because it doesn't look so great. It doesn't feel so great. And yet, if we can all just hold the line on it, because it's all shifting that narrative, because we asked for the change. So if we're willing to go back in and go to the core within us, any core wounds, shift that narrative. We got to be able to have the awareness of the core wounds, and then we got to be able to have those practices in play to create another one. And that's the missing piece that I believe is happening right now. Because then there's the core of history. And we need to then set what new history we want to be able to build. That sentence makes sense? We need to be able to have the narrative that will serve the collective as a whole of us all coming back to unity as one, versus whatever narrative we shifted. And when we shifted it to, we got to have the goal of what we would like now. You got to know where, you got to look before you leap. So you got to be able to create what that is that you want, and then put into practice those things with the proper tools that you want. But first, we got to be able to look in the past and be like, that's not working. But we got to get to the core of where that first shifted in history and the core within us. The first story, the first narrative that we started telling ourselves, no matter what topic, no matter what relationship it is. Give some hearts if you guys are relating to this. Okay. And then decide, cool, now what do we want? Because at some point, we're going to look to the past to heal it. We always look to the past to heal and to reflect on what we don't want. But if we stay in the past, then we won't create the future that we want. That goes for any relationship. That goes to your relationship to yourself, others, business, any relationship. So we got to honor the past. We got to honor it. Absolutely. We got to go to the core. Find out what it is. But then at some point, we got to take responsibility for it. So I know a couple times I've come on here and everybody's like, oh, responsibility. And then they jump off and it's like, I don't want to take responsibility. Yeah, we got to get real with responsibility. We got to get comfortable with responsibility. Because if we're not taking responsibility, then we're passing the buck. And then we're not owning it within ourselves, in which case you're saying you're not the conscious creator of your reality. And you're not up to playing the game of creating oneness with everybody else. So the more that we can do that and then create, cool, what is the future that we want to be able to have? And what is the future that we want to be able to create? And focus more on that. With the truest values, with being a truth seeker, with honor, with integrity, and all of those other core values. Why is it, right? Why is it I start talking truth and it always just keeps pausing? Give some hearts if you guys can hear me. Yes, responsibility. Yes, responsibility. And I know I'm just being, give some hearts if you guys can hear me. because I know it's doing a thing. Cool. Okay, cool. Yes to all of this. And I'm just calling it out because a couple times, this was maybe a couple months ago, right? We all talked about responsibility. And it was like, oh God, that feels like a sticky word and nobody wants to do it. And yet now more than ever, if we're not taking responsibility, then we're not going to have the outcome in the world that we want. We're just not. It's not going to happen. Hands down. Cool. Let me check in with you, loves. Is it having a relationship with yourself is more important than having it with someone else? Question. And how would you explain that? Great question. No. There's no what's more important than one versus the other. So if we looked at it like this, and I'm sure everybody's read the memes, right? And you've definitely heard me say, right? Because as much as we talk about relationships, I say you set the tone within, everything else is the echo. It's been said in other ways that are the relationship that you have with yourself sets the tone for all the other relationships that you have in your life. What does that really mean? Right? Because that's very figurative. It's like, what does that mean? It's like, if you're an asshole to yourself, let's just keep it real. If you're an asshole to yourself, you're going to be an asshole to other people. Like, let's just keep it grounded. When you speak nicely to yourself, you understand, you speak nicely to other people, right? You guys have all seen the meme, hurt people hurt people. Why do we say that? Because if you're hurting within, then chances are your actions, your behavior, your thoughts, your speech, the things that you say aren't going to have the awareness to then not hurt people. That's just the truth. That's just what happens. So the more that we all say, okay, let's heal ourselves, because the relationship that you have with you, it always starts with you. Every other relationship, how all of your other relationships are, is a direct result with how you're showing up for you. That just is. So it's not one is better than the other. It's, I would say the most important relationship is the one that you have with yourself. Absolutely. Because that's going to dictate how all of your other echoes, how everything else in your reality, how all of your other relationships show up. So are we always gauging and learning? Because we're still human, right? So equally, we'll wake up in the day and maybe we're not as nice to ourselves. Maybe we pick on ourselves. Maybe we judge ourselves a little bit, all of that stuff, right? Because we're human, because we have this thing up here that deletes, distorts, and generalizes all this information. And we have an ego, and we have a pain body, and we have all these different things that are the beauty of being in the experience of being human, so that we can learn how to be more in alignment with the highest version of ourselves and what that looks like, and less in alignment with the lower version of ourselves. And yet we flip-flop all the time. Massive things in the world happen, and it makes us forget how to be more in alignment with the higher version of ourselves, because it increases fear and chaos and uncertainty. And then all of a sudden, all the tools that you've been doing your best with to love yourself go out the window. And all of a sudden you're just like, oh my God, I'm frustrated. Let me project out on somebody else. Like, okay, reel it back, Susan. You know what I mean? Stop projecting out how you're feeling inside. So the more that we can track how we're feeling inside, the more that we have self-mastery, the skills to master our empowerment within. Are you going to be perfect every day? No, you're not supposed to be. You're human. But the more that we can be practicing actions, thoughts, beliefs, behaviors in alignment with love versus anything else, because anything that's not love is just not love. It's over here. Joy is actually technically the highest on the vibrational scale. So who you are with you first and foremost That is a universal law. Google it, as if Google has all of the answers on the universe. It's so true. Google it. It's true, guys. It's on the news. Did I just say that? Whoopsie. You have to know what's true for you in your heart. You have to know discernment. You have to have clarity of heart. You have to have, like, that's why I love, right? Even in Egyptian, it's like, and Ma'at, because I'm like 5 planets in Libra. So Ma'at. And if my brother Kiko's on here, totally relate to this one. And Ma'at is the balance of the scales, and she weighs the heart with a feather. Does your heart feel heavy, or does it feel as light as a feather? And if it feels as light as a feather, then you are in joy and love and all of those higher vibrations versus heavy, loaded, lower, exhausting vibrations. And every day we get to choose. Because if we take on the responsibility that we are the conscious creators of our reality, that we are the conscious creator of our relationship with ourselves before everybody else, then make sure that your heart is light before you speak. Make sure that your heart is in love before you act. Make sure that we're focusing on where we want to go, taking responsibility for past, cleaning shit up in the past, and then creating the future that we want, because that's the only way that we're going to move into the change that we all have been saying that we want. And it's here. It's totally here. But another rule of the universe is things have to deconstruct. We have to just have, right? We have to unlearn our own patterns and programs inside in order to learn and create a new one. So you have to deconstruct. There's a law of the universe called centropy and entropy. You guys, if you've been following me for a while, you've been hearing me talk about this a couple times. Centropy is creation. It's like Mr. Miyagi, right? Wax on, wax off. That's literally what he was talking about. Centropy is creation. Entropy is deconstruction. So we have to deconstruct. We have to break down. Sometimes in breakdown, it looks like chaos, in order to then construct out of the chaos, turn and remold. It's alchemy. It's when gold, right? You have it as a hard shape, and then you might melt it down, deconstruct it in order to then mold it into a new form. The butterfly does the same thing. Everybody knows the caterpillar. If you don't know this, Google it. The caterpillar is a caterpillar. It's this like little wormy, weird looking thing. They're super cute though. And then it goes into a cocoon. You know what happens? It literally shakes violently, turns into plasma. It deconstructs its form in a state of chaos, in such violent chaos, in order to reform inside this tiny little cocoon, to reform into what then turns into this beautiful butterfly. These are laws of the universe. So let's not get all hijacked and up in arms in the chaos that's happening. We're literally in a fucking cocoon right now. For real. Like a real one. Like a real one. Really gigantic cocoon. But when we can step into responsibility, then we get to choose and consciously create the butterfly or what it gets remolded into. And that absolutely takes responsibility. That's a huge responsibility. That's like, yes, let's definitely put some love and attention into that, because what is it going to turn into if we don't? And that takes being able to see the multiple different narratives that are happening right now so that we can recognize that we're in chaos, but don't be of the chaos. Excuse me. Be aware of the chaos. Don't be in the chaos. Support the positive things that are coming out of the chaos. Recognize the different narratives, the multiple different narratives, different perspectives of each person and the multiple different narratives, because some things have a certain agenda, and out of some agendas are coming beautiful gold and beautiful butterflies. But if we're only willing to look at like the negative, then we won't see the positive. If we're only looking at one side, then we won't see the other 4 sides. We don't have yoga flexibility on those perspectives. Give some hearts if you're relating to that. Okay. In this world, not of it. Exactly. How many times did we get that card before all of this stuff happened? Yes. Laughing. Okay. Yes, it's powerful. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, good. Yes, you guys are all relating. Okay, cool. Metamorphosis is not pretty stage. It's not. And yet there's something so absolutely beautiful about it. And we've been running some, just like inside our own mind and our own relationship with ourselves, we've been running some narratives and some storylines that aren't healthy collectively. It's not healthy. We haven't been seeing the world as one unit and how we can be supportive of each other. We haven't been doing that. And we got to just own that. That's taking responsibility for the past. But it's not going to happen through, it's not going to happen through only seeing one perspective. It's not going to happen. Because if we can't see somebody else's perspective, then there's no compassion. That's just another law. Google it. Oh God, who owns Google? Oh God, okay. It's called integrate. Yes. Yes, it is. And in order to integrate, that means other chaos, other stories within has to go. We have to unlearn. And then we have to create something new. All right, you guys got it. You guys got it. And without compassion, there's no unity. Yes, girl. Yes, girl. Hashtag Google it. Exactly. But oh my God, somebody don't like. I'm like, oh God, who owns Google? Like, don't hate on me for whoever owns Google, because God knows. God knows. All right, source knows. Okay. Yes. Yes, you're right. The way that you treat yourself sets the standards for others. It's on Google. Awesome. Beautiful. What did we Google today? How to safely get out of a cocoon after you've turned into plasma. I would love to be able to be the perspective of the butterfly right now, or the plasma. We might all. Here's one to try on. You want to test your ability to see multiple different perspectives? Try this one on. Can you imagine? This is how we're able to jump in other people's perspectives too, right? To be able to have a little bit of understanding. You'll never be able to fully understand. You're never them. You didn't live their life. And yet, a little bit of understanding, shifting into their perspective. Jump out of yourself. You have to get out of yourself. That's step 1. So try this. What would happen if you stepped out of yourself and into the perspective of the plasma in the cocoon before it turns into the butterfly? What do you think the plasma, because everything is consciousness, everything has a consciousness. So even though it's plasma, it still has a consciousness. Give some hearts if you relate, if you agree with that. Just because it's plasma, it's still consciousness. It's reforming itself. It would have to. It's an intelligence, because everything that comes from source is. So if you were in the perspective of the plasma, We're going so quantum. Okay. If you were in the perspective, imagining yourself in the perspective of the plasma before it turns into a butterfly, what would the plasma have to be thinking? It's conscious. It's aware. What would it have to be thinking? What would it like to be creating? What would it know that it was creating? What would it have to believe in itself? Would it have to believe that it was possible to turn into a butterfly? Not just that evolution would naturally take place. Like would you, as plasma, would you have to believe the ability that you could turn into a butterfly? Would you have to think? What would you have to be thinking? What actions as plasma would you have to be taking in order to guarantee that you would turn into a butterfly? This is a fun game. If you were plasma on Tuesday and knew that you would be a butterfly on Friday, what would you have to believe about yourself, think about yourself, and what actions would you have to take by Friday in order to guarantee that you turned into the butterfly? To live, you must grow. Love that. You are deserving. Love that. Yes. What color should I make my wings? Yes. Awesome. Awesome. You guys are awesome. Play with it. More. Come on. Do you, or does it just happen? Does the plasma take responsibility for being plasma? Does it step into taking action to form itself into something new? But it has to have the thought first. It has to have the intention first. It has to be able to take action in order to turn into that. And then even still, Google this. Even after it's coming out, it opens, it turns into the butterfly, and it's coming out of the cocoon. Who knows this one? Give some hearts if you guys know this one. It's coming out of the cocoon. If you help it, it will die. It has to get out of the cocoon on its own. Meaning it has to take the action on its own. You can always have support. You can always have somebody being like, hey, you should put your hand here. Hey, here's how you do it. You can maneuver yourself this way, right? It can kind of be guided. But if any interference comes into its action, taking the action on its own, it will die. Guidance supported, or right? Guidance needed. But if you do it for, why? Because it didn't own it. It doesn't own it. That's responsibility. We all got to be able to own it. We all got to be able to put that action in ourselves. Nobody can do that. I teach tools all day long. I teach the tangible, practical tools to consciously creating the lifestyle that you want, to rewriting those programs. I can teach them all day long. I never do anything for anybody. I can't. And I say that all the time. I'm like, here it is. Here's exactly what you need to do. But I can't make you do it. And I won't make you do it because then you don't own it. You don't come out of the cocoon yourself. Give some hearts if that resonates. Yeah, there we go. Or sometimes you need to just say, I'm so plasma right now, and keep it moving. Oh my God. Shout out to Karisna Asani. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Best quote of Soul Circle Tuesdays. Sometimes you need to just say, I'm so plasma right now, and just keep it moving. Yes, boo. all this week. All this week. Sorry. I'm just so plasma right now. I'm just gonna Krishna. Awesome. Awesome. Nice one, love. Nice. That's amazing. So plasma right now. I'm so plasma right now. Always plasma. But I don't know. I wouldn't want to be plasma like all the time. We got to turn into form, right? I'm so plasma. So good. So good. Awesome, loves. All right. All right. I know I said I would do cards. And let me scroll back up and see if we have any questions. Plasma holds the codes and intentions to completely upgrade the DNA. Talk about conscious alchemy. Yes, girl. Yes. Yes. 100%. Because plasma can be molded. It's plasma. That's why I'm like, what would the intention, what would the plasma have to be thinking? If it's already conscious, what would it have to be thinking? What would it have to be feeling? What would it have to know? What actions would it be taking as plasma? Imagine yourself as plasma this week. If you can imagine yourself as plasma, you can put yourself into anybody else's perspective and have compassion. That's the name of this game for this week. Okay. I love that. What color should I make my wings? Beautiful. Yes, because that's the only choice to choose you or to not be here. Perhaps there could be other choices. If so, for you, I love that. Got the exact same download. Okay, cool. Okay, let me see. Do we have any? Got it. You guys are awesome. I'm looking for questions. So if you have any, put them down at the bottom and I can scroll back down. I just want to make sure if I missed anything. Hang on. Okay. My contacts are dry. Yes, rebirth. Yes. You're on it this week and cracking up. Okay, good. Good. Can we all just be plasma this week? I think we are collectively. We're plasma. We're in the chaos right now. We're plasma. Plasma flows. It's the fourth phase of water. That's cool. I didn't know that. Divine, sacred, heart, rose. That's cool. It's the fourth phase of water. Okay, and we all know Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi. Get it together, Sarah. Who am I trying to think of? Mr. Miyagi. That's wax on, wax off. Emoto. Emoto's work. So fourth phase of water, right? And if everything has an intelligence, and if water holds intelligence based on the vibration, the thoughts that we put into it, the intentions that go into it, so that plasma must have to think pretty powerfully about itself in order to turn itself into a butterfly. It must have to have the consciousness so having such strong conviction, such strong certainty in its standing of itself to turn itself from plasma into another form. It alchemizes itself into a whole nother form that's beautiful with beautiful color wings. So intricate. Thank you. Masuro Emoto. Try that trip on this week. Can you put yourself into the perspective of plasma? Not the butterfly yet. Don't put yourself in the perspective of the butterfly, right? Don't try to get something without owning it first. And we don't want to be the caterpillar because it's like, well, we already know you're going to shift. So what if you could put yourself in the perspective of plasma? What would you have to know? What would you have to have such strong conviction? What certainty would you have to have? I meant to choose you or not. Okay. Or not meant to choose me or to not, or to hang on, or not to be here authentically as you. Didn't mean to be too, girl, you're awesome. Ellie or La Morena. I love it. Yes. I heard you. I heard you. I love it. Okay. How to embrace massive life changes. Like right now? Well, it's in the midst of everything happening in the world. Mm-hmm. How do I make sure that my decisions are clear and not clouded? Great. You're plasma right now. Congratulations. If you're just tuning in, you'll want to go back and watch the replay of this. So it has to do with the butterfly. I don't know when you just turned in. So how do you embrace massive changes? Setting the intention. This goes exactly. So I'll just recap it for ultimately this whole video. We have to be able to have multiple perspectives, to see from all different perspectives, to then know what is the best choice to move forward so that we're choosing from power, not reacting out of fear. In order to do that, you need to get really super clear on the filters of how you're absorbing information, and it's going through your 3 primary filters of deletion, distortion, and generalization to fit an old narrative of the past. So then we would want to look into the past, honor it, take responsibility for whatever you don't want, and then most importantly, create the vision of what you do want. Moving into creating more of what you do want, setting those patterns, putting that into practice, putting healthy patterns into practice. That's what is not taught in school. That is the foundation of what I teach. I love teaching that stuff. But we got to get aware on what that core is that's keeping us from that. And then we have to actually put into practice those practices, tools, strategies that move us forward. So how to embrace the massive life changes. First, you're aware of it. So I say in the conscious lifestyle method, there's 4 phases. First is awareness. Congratulations. You're aware that you're in a massive change. Everybody is. Welcome to Earth. Google it. And then acceptance. So this is sometimes the hardest part, because if we're not in acceptance of what is, then we'll be in resistance. And if we're in resistance, then we'll continue creating more of what we don't want, which just validates the protection programs that will keep us living in the past. So getting into acceptance creates more understanding, creates more compassion, creates more love, creates clarity. From there, you want to be in alignment. The 4th one is getting in touch with the alignment of the future of where you want to create, what you want to create, what that looks like, what you want to be able to achieve, right? What actions would need to take place for that. And the final one is it's the integrate. So, oh my God, why am I forgetting the 4th one? So it's the integration process. It's the actualization. It's the putting those things into practice, putting those tangible, healthy tools, if you will, practices, whatever you guys want to call them, creating new programs and putting those into practice. So that's the 4 phases of basically creating the conscious lifestyle that you want. But where I would say that you're at right now, which is where a lot of people are right now, we got to we're aware that we're in chaos right now, in the midst of everything happening. Getting into acceptance. Confirmation of fireworks going off. Hopefully that was a firework. And making sure that your decisions are clear and not clouded means, so the clouded is the fear. But if you get into acceptance of what currently is, then that will remove the blocks of any fear. Getting reconnected with the highest version of yourself, the emotional alignment of the highest version of yourself, it removes all fear. Because we're either operating from a past version of our old wounds, or we're in alignment with the highest version of ourselves and using the tools and the practices to stay in alignment of that so that we can keep our clarity and keep our flow. Is that resonating? And is that making sense? So, I mean, you're asking a very broad, like, how-to question. I'm like, you're in the awareness phase. We're all in the awareness phase and, in the acceptance phase. We're aware. and we're in the acceptance phase. And what is it that you want? You got to get super clear on what you want. One of the biggest things that holds people back, relationships, creating the life that they want. It's like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. Have you tried something, moving forward at least into something? And if you're choosing from the old version of you that wants to stay the same in fear, in your comfort zone, then of course you won't know what you want, because you're only making choices you're reacting based on fear rather than choosing powerfully from the alignment of the highest version of you. Does that resonate? So there's a couple different things that we would have to get clear on. One specifically is, what's the emotional alignment to you and your highest version of yourself? Then from there, creating the vision of the future that you would like to create and removing the blocks of everything that's in the way of you doing that. It's not a hard equation. It's just, it's like if you don't know how to build a house, you got to know the structure on how to build a house. You got to know the tools that it takes to then building the house. And then maybe a guide that can be like, oh, this is how you build a house. Definitely operating from a place of fear. That makes so much sense. Exactly. I love saying, you guys have heard me say this so many times, what are you making it mean? When we can always track, what am I making it mean? Cool, this situation is happening. What am I making that mean? What am I making that mean? Because that's the narrative. Talk about shifting narratives. That's the narrative that we will either keep that story that will validate past experiences, that validates the ego, which is the inner child that wants to stay safe and small over here because it's uncertain to step into something new. And yet right now, collectively, we're all uncertain, but it's the best opportunity to create something new. Because in something new is uncertainty, because it's new. And yet if we're going to sit here and be afraid of that and be like, oh my God, well, we should just keep doing what we've been doing. Well, no, we shouldn't, because what we've been doing in the past, we haven't been truthful. And it hasn't been creating relationships with ourselves and others that has a foundation of standing and strength and honor and integrity and all of those fun things, and not just words to stitch on a pillow, but the actual operating from the beingness of those words. That has been lost. We're like, oh, cool, integrity, Google it. What's the definition? Awesome. But what does it mean to live that? What does it mean to actually be the living example of the highest version of yourself, of our highest versions of ourselves? Be the living example of higher love. Be the living example of not just saying you're going to do the work, but be the living example of applying that and integrating that into your life and actualizing that. That's what's up. Not feeling creative right now. You're out of alignment with the highest version of yourself. Hands down. 2 minutes. Change. Inner conflict. Love it. Season of the heart. Bam. Can't get more clear on that. I don't think I need to go into explaining it. If you need more explanation, watch the replay of this video. If this helped, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this resonated with you guys. If it did, if you feel somebody, friend needs to hear this, watch the replay. It'll be on IGTV. So I'll post that on my stories. Send it to a friend who you feel might need a little support with this so that we can all be leveling up and making the change that we're all saying that we want to be able to create in the world. So if any part of this resonated with you and you feel like a friend needs to hear it, please share it. I love you guys. I'm Sarah Delane, the Conscious Lifestylist, here helping you know your worth, create the wealth that you want in the world, consciously create healthy relationships and online businesses and all that fun stuff. I love you guys. I'll see you next Tuesday.